Oder die meint. Yep. Sing Christ. Stos was ganz. Christ is risen from the dead, trampling down death by death, and upon those in the tombs bestowing life. Christ is risen. Truly is risen.
Truly is risen.
Truly he's risen.
So, um, Father got me to do a presentation tonight on
Okay, Greg.
truly is risen. Because he wasn't gonna be here, but he's here now. So. You see that?
Yep.
Someone is waiting too. All right, so I'm going to talk about the Sunday of the Paralytic, um, where Jesus comes to the paralytic at the pool of Bethesda. Um, if someone can, would they be able to read the verses?
The whole 15?
Yeah.
Ron, you probably read this before. Is this Bethesda or how do you pronounce the
I would say Bethesda.
Bethesda? Yes, Bethesda. That's what I would say. Nathan, would you agree? Bethesda? Yeah.
Okay, here we go. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, there is at Jerusalem by the sheep market a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first after the troubling of the water stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there, which had an infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lie and knew that he had been now a long time in that case, he saith unto him, Wilt thou be made whole? The impotent man answered, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me in the pool, but while I am coming, another steppeth down before me. Jesus said to him, Rise, take up your bed and walk. And immediately the man was made whole and took up his bed and walked, and on the same day was the Sabbath. The Jews therefore said to him that was cured, It's the Sabbath. It is not lawful for you to carry your bed. He answered them, He that made me whole, the same said to me, Take up your bed and walk. Then asked they him, When man is that which said unto thee, Take up thy bed and walk? And he said he was healed, wist not who it was. For Jesus had conveyed himself away, and the multitude being in that place. Afterward, Jesus found him in the temple and said to him, Behold, you are made whole, sin no more, lest a worse thing come upon you. The man departed and told the Jews that it was Jesus which had made him whole.
All right. Thank you, Ron.
I just have to make a comment because can we make this sort of like a podcast and you can all comment? Uh, I can't stand this old English. I just
Of course, yeah, you and me both. That's why I changed some of the words into modern English.
I admired you, Ron, how you read well this. This is
It took
so
a bit of
good.
concentration.
I would make so many. Yeah, yeah. It's just it takes for me at least. It's I have some friends who are sort of really in love with this old English thee, thou, and etc.
No, yeah.
And say, well, if it's just that, so they, everyone can learn these words, but sometimes it becomes such a stumbling block because you're
Hmm.
trying to pronounce words like
Sorry
sites
about that.
or something like that, and then you get lost in these words. I don't know. It's
Well,
maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me that
No,
no. That word
yes,
whist I've never
yes,
seen before.
yes, yes.
Okay. So I know one really good priest in America, and they are, and he knows Greek and Slavonic and whatnot, and then they are. One of his spiritual children asked him, and he's going to be, because I just got his message today, because I asked him to um, to lead one of our Bible studies, and that's Boyan from
Beautiful.
Bible Illustrated. If you watched Bible Illustrated, and he says yes, he's going to be our guest in one of the
Beautiful.
next Tuesdays,
Oh, wow.
and he says for his spiritual father, who is a priest in America, he asked him, what translation father do you use? He said none. I translated, and then I used that translation. Yeah. Okay. So, Gregory,
Okay.
just a side note on translation.
No, it's okay. All right. So this is a picture of what is supposedly the pool.
Mm. Can you see the 5 colonnades?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 up the back there. I can see 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway.
So there would have been people all in those balconies and stuff,
Mm.
waiting for the water. So I kind of did a bit of a personal reflection, trying to sort of relate myself to the paralytic, or my own experience to the paralytic. So there's probably a lot more that can be said about this story, but this is kind of my own personal thing. So
So you
first,
recover from a physical infirmity?
no.
Oh, okay, all right.
Just more, I guess,
Oh,
spiritual
you don't have to
things.
explain. I was just wondering, that's all.
No, that's okay. So verse 5, and a certain man was there which had an infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lie, he knew that he had been now a long time in that case, and said unto him, Will you be made whole? The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool, but while I am coming, another steps down before me.
Mm.
So this man has been paralyzed for most of, if not all of his life, and it's the only life he knows. And just a little note that 38 is just below 40 being a number of completion.
Mm.
So he's incomplete, basically. Um,
Is there any other meaning of the 38? Have you read? Anyone read this before? No, no. Okay.
I'll
Just
look up
wondering if
my.
there is 38, the number 38. Is there any other meaning to it?
I've got a
Because there
book
is this
on.
whole numerology, and Jews were very much in the Old Testament is full
Yeah.
of this
So
numerology.
Wilson goes really far into this, and there's a point when I was reading it where I was just like, too far. He has a meaning for every single number, basically.
Oh, but it's not his. He did not invent
No,
that.
he didn't invent it.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
He,
Jews had that thing. There were some were really obsessed with numbers. That's why I was sort of wondering if you
He
knew
might.
what
I think
38
if you
means.
want to find the meaning for it, you can look at Saint Augustine's. Something for every number.
I think I took this note from Saint
I
Irenaeus.
Okay.
sorry, I just quickly searched online and it says in the Bible the number 38 often symbolizes a long period of trial, sickness, or waiting, frequently followed by divine intervention or a new beginning. It is directly associated with the 38-year
Mm.
wilderness wandering of the Israelites and the 38-year infirmity of the man healed by Jesus at the pool of Bethsaida.
Wasn't it 40 years it was 40 years that they were wandering in the
And the
wilderness.
30, okay.
I wonder if first 2 years weren't counted as wandering. They were supposed to be on their way there.
Maybe there is some kind of calculation. Some years don't count, or they're taken out for some other symbolic reason. But I
I don't know.
They would be very precise when it comes to that. Like numbers sort of mean. That's why even in the church we have like number 40 is very important. 40 days. Same with
Completion.
Jesus' resurrection, it's Ascension Day, and then 50th day is Pentecost, and then after everyone dies in the Orthodox Church, we have this 40 days memorial service and so on. So the 40 is important, but 38, like 40 days,
Yeah.
yeah, 30, yeah, 40 days of the flood, and then after those days, Noah finds dry land and the new covenant established between God and Noah and so on. But 30, I was just wondering if someone really could find a reference in the Old Testament. So what Julia is saying is actually referred to this Bible, to this biblical story. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I read that in Irenaeus, maybe.
Yeah, okay.
That was just the first thing that came up when I Googled, so maybe it's not a really good source. I'm not sure.
It is an odd number, but it is specifically mentioned. So
It is specific, and especially with John the evangelist who writes this, he has a reason why he has put 38 there. So I can't really remember now. I wasn't preparing, sorry, for this Bible study, but he's very, because when he says the number of fish that had been caught after Jesus' resurrection, you can read this if you come to resurrection matins on Sunday mornings. You'll hear that one of the 11 resurrection gospels mentions, and that's from John, mentions that when Jesus appears to them, they caught a great number of fish, 144.
Oh,
And why is that? I remember that in the ancient world, now this is not Jewish tradition, in the ancient world, they believed that there were exactly 144 nations in the world. And so that's, everything is very symbolic with John.
Fishes are men.
Yes, and so now after resurrection, apostles catch the fish. It was a great large number of fish, 148 or 44. I can't. I'm sorry now, but that's the number of peoples of nations in the world. Yeah.
I was just reading here from St. Augustine. He describes 38 as numerus langoris, which means like a number of suffering or infirmity. And he says the reason it's 2 less, not like 39, is because of the commandment of Christ, the Shema Israel and then the loving one neighbor, because there's 2 commandments.
Oh, so everything is perfect then after you
everything
have
follows
those
it.
two. Right.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
yeah. The number of fish is 153 from
153, sorry.
John
Yes.
21:11.
Yes,
Yeah.
there you go. 153.
Yeah.
Sorry, I forgot.
No, that's all right.
I'm
That's all right.
very bad with memorizing these things. I just know the meaning, and it was so fascinating to. It was very fascinating to me to find out that 153 is actually in the ancient world. Yeah, whatever I said. But Siva now just mentioned that 38 is, according to Augustine, just short of 2 for 40 to be perfect, complete, as Gregory mentioned. So 40 is this completion, perfection, and it's short of 2. And what are those 2? Augustine says, well, the 2 greatest commandments: love your God, Shema Israel. Well, it's not Shema Israel. Shema Israel is one. Well, the 2 commandments that Christ actually says that are the greatest one. On those 2 depend all the law and the prophets. Thou shalt love your God with all your mind, heart, and soul, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. So those are the 2 greatest ones. So yeah.
Can I ask, is the stirring of the water supposed to be from God? I've seen some thoughts that it is not from, doesn't emanate from God, or is it not really clear?
It's not clear. It's definitely, well, what's clear is that it is not from God. It's the angel of the Lord. It's the angel of the Lord. So it's not directly from God. So what
I
says
did see people talking about it being like a pagan thing.
Yeah.
Very much so, very much. But it was some sort of a custom. So it was sort of Jesus doesn't want to deal with that, so he doesn't. So sort of, he says to him, "Just get up, and take your bed, and walk." He
I
doesn't want to have anything to do with that.
in the study Bible,
Mm.
it has this note. I don't know how accurate this is, but it mentioned that there may have been some connection with temple sacrifices, that these waters were what the temple sacrifices were washed in. And so there's some kind of connection to that, but it was only the first who came that got healed. And so there's some kind of connection, some kind of incarnational connection, because like there's a comparison between the temple sacrifices that are done and post-crucifixion in the church, where now we, just like how only the high priest once a year could go into the Holy of Holies, and the laity couldn't even enter into the temple. Now we're allowed to enter in now. So there was some kind of connection that they were
And
making.
that reminds me, very good. Thank you for sharing that, because what I just remembered is that the commandment in the Old Testament, when you get, is for a firstborn son to be brought to the temple and then make sacrifices only for a firstborn son. That's why Jesus was brought, if you remember that, and we celebrate that as the meeting of the Lord. However, in the Orthodox Church, it is not just for firstborn son. It's every child. So everyone now gets access to the grace of God, and to that is equally treated. In the same, so in the spirit of today's gospel, where it's only the first one who jumps in, Christ doesn't want to deal with that. Says, "Go, you're gonna be made whole, or you're gonna be healed." Yeah, beautiful.
Alright, so Jesus asks him a kind of a weird question. He says, "Do you want to be healed?" Which it seems like, why wouldn't he? But I think he's been like this his whole life, and to be healed is kind of to have his entire life changed. He's probably begging for money, and that if he's healed, he probably has to go out and work. But the man obviously has a desire to be healed, being at the pool, and he knows he's not in denial in wanting to be healed. He's not in denial of his sickness, so there's some humility there, and he's not speaking. He doesn't seem to speak with anger towards his situation when he says, "I have no man when the water is troubled to put me in the pool." He's still there, I guess, trying, which he kind of strikes me as a humble man. I don't know. But,
Accepting his lot.
yeah.
Because the Jewish belief at the time was that sickness and illnesses came from sin.
Oh yeah.
Emanated from sin.
It wasn't really straightforward, but because even in the Old Testament, you have Prophet Ezekiel saying, the saying, your fathers have ate sour grapes, and to the sons the teeth are numbing, something like that. Yeah. And something like that. I know it in Serbian, sorry, I do apologize. I can't remember now in English, but and he says, he quotes this directly. So your fathers ate sour grape, and to you, your teeth are numbing because of that. But he says this saying is not to be valid anymore in Israel. So even the prophets are saying, well, what your fathers did, what they sin, that does not apply to you. And so, moreover,
But I think the connection is implied, right, in this story, between his paralysis and sin, and that's kind of, I guess, the point I'm trying to make, in relating it to my own experience with coming to the church. That I think you can become comfortable in your sin, but his humility and desire to be healed, it's at least he's making that recognition of his sin, and that's kind of the first step that we have to make before we're healed. Is wanting to be healed and not just being comfortable in our sin. If that makes sense. And sin is I don't know. That's as far as I can.
Sin is a dysfunction. So there is this connection between sin and sickness, but not in terms of that, sickness is a result of sinning. Like, I catch cold or I had the flu. Like, what did I like? You just can't. You can't. That's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. But on the other hand, when I'm sick,
You feel like you're being punished.
no, not just that. I do feel that, but then the way
Mainly from your wife, I'm sure.
no. What I wanted to say is that it brings the worst in me, and I start treating people around me in the worst possible way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
it's
I'm
called man flu.
Oh, so you mean only men are allowed to they're privileged
Well, it's
to
justified.
treat others.
It's justified for women.
So for some reason we give ourselves this right to start whinging more whenever there is something hurts us, and I connect that. I mean, because I recognize that in myself is that, well, I'm sinning more when I'm sick. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm definitely sinning much more when I'm sick. And so that's how I made this connection between
You're not loving
sin
my
and
neighbour.
sick. No. I can't stand anyone. And that's the problem, you see. The only connection between sin and sickness is that how it makes you sort of.
I was reading from Saint Porphyrius, and he mentions as well how when we sin, but how fasting is really the ordering of the soul and body in one way. Sin is the reversal of that, and often when we find ourselves in a despondent, this is what he noticed, at least people that came to him in a despondent or sinful state. It can reflect on our body and our health, not because we're being punished, but just in the sense that we don't take care of ourselves as well. That's also there.
There is no order at all.
Exactly.
Yeah. True. Sorry. I think we could go like this verse by verse. I think it's helpful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, everyone is invited to sort of chip in.
Yeah. I mean, this was only a last minute presentation, so. Alright. So Jesus says unto him, Rise, take up thy bed and walk. And immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed and walked. And the same day was the Sabbath. So the man, still not knowing who Jesus is, heeds his commandment to get up and walk, and being instantly healed. He doesn't second guess it or question it or anything. He just does it. And I think we come to know Christ in the same way. He finds us, he comes to us. And the only thing that we can really do to begin with is believe what he says is true and act on it. And then I think it's after the fact of kind of trusting the things he says and acting on it. Then after that, we see that we are healed and we come to understand more fully the truth of who Christ is. And we know we need healing and we find it in trusting Christ. So that's kind of, and I think that, that simplicity of just trusting, like just getting up and taking your bed and walking without kind of thinking too much or questioning things, just going and doing it, I think is something you kind of repeatedly need to remind yourself, or I do, because you can get in a rut and you can kind of go through the motions and not reach beyond, everything's trying to lull us into complacency, but we kind of just need to go forth and take up our bed and walk sometimes.
I think as well with the when Christ asks if he wants to be healed, I think that it's not really a trivial thing. I mean, whenever I read it, I read that because he asks a lot of different people in the gospel whether they want to be healed, and it's in my opinion, it's like a sign that love comes before understanding. Because like this guy, he has no clue how he's gonna walk. He even says, you know, I have no one to take me to the pool, but he still loves.
He's
God.
rationalizing
He's
it.
rationalizing
Yeah.
it, but love comes
Yeah.
before that. And even when Saint Paul says that, you know, there's faith and love, but love is the greatest of them all, because love precedes everything. So when you like, and also the it reminds me of the image of the Father who has helped my unbelief, and that's sort of that you're not gonna have a full understanding of how things work if you're not going to know exactly how things are gonna go, but you still love God and you still try. Yeah.
That's very that is very important to sort of understand that love precedes understanding. And also the free will. God will not do nothing without your participation. So if you refuse, he will not impose himself on you. Like he didn't impose himself on Adam and Eve or any human being. He's there. I stand at the door and knock, and whosoever opens, I will come in and I will dine with him. It is really up to us to open the door, but then he does and he heals it. Yeah. For me, what's really interesting is how this man who received the grace, and I'm constantly sort of babbling about this and repeating myself, is that when he's healed, he's also sent. You know, he received the grace of God, but he's also then sent on a mission. And I said there is not a single person in the Bible who received the grace of God and yet wasn't sent on a mission. Because why this man was healed and not probably hundreds of others that were there, it's not that this man was God's favorite for some reason because he fasted, because he did more prayers than others or whatever. No, you don't hear any of that this man did anything. What this man received was just the grace, which means a free gift. But why, out of all people, there were probably other people there, why him? Well, so that through him, others can know the grace as well. Because Jesus sends him, he says, see you have been made well, sin no more, lest the worst thing comes upon you. And the man departed, and then what says here, it says, and told the Jews that it was Jesus who made him well. So he's going and, you know, he's become a missionary. He's telling others what happened to him. Everyone. He's declaring the name of Christ.
By the way, does it say that he went to the temple after being healed? Because I think I remember I read it this evening, and I think I noticed that. Because again, in the notes, it mentioned that his first act after being healed to go to the temple to tell all the Jews, obviously, but also it was it had the idea that in the notes it presents this idea that he's going there to give thanks to God. So it's
Oh,
an act
yes.
of gratitude.
And it does say, verse 14, afterwards, Jesus found him in the temple. So they actually met at the temple. Jesus found him at the temple and then said to him, see, you have been made well, sin no more, lest the worst thing comes upon you. And so, yeah.
Was this one of the more public healing miracles?
Oh, well, absolutely.
Or one of the first ones, was it? The more public?
No, well, in Gospel of John, the first one was actually at
Wine,
the Cana of
water into
Galilee.
wine. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the wedding, and we say in the wedding prayer, in the marriage prayers, that, you know, it was really because it was the first time Jesus worked and performed at the marriage feast, that marriage was blessed, and therefore it's, you know, one of the sacraments and so on and so forth. You will have many arguments against 7 sacraments of the church. which I agree because it's sort of in line what the fathers of the church. The fathers of the church never taught about 7 sacraments of the church, by the way. They were teaching that the church is a sacrament, and everything that the church performs is a sacrament, and everything flows out of the liturgy and sort of comes back, and whatever the church does is a sort of a sacrament. But one of the reasons why, when we read one of the prayers in marriage, sacrament of marriage, it says, "Oh, Jesus did this first in Cana of Galilee, and by that he showed that marriage is honorable, and so on and so forth." Yeah. Sorry.
That's it. So next is part about. So the Jews therefore said unto him that was cured, It is the Sabbath day, it is not lawful for thee to carry your bed. He answered them, He that made me whole, the same said unto me, Take up your bed and walk. Then asked they him, What man is it that which said unto you, Take up your bed and walk? And he that was healed did not know who it was, for Jesus had conveyed himself away, a multitude being in that place. So the Jews care more that he's breaking the worldly rules than that he is healed. I think if we experience this healing from Christ, we might come upon people who have not experienced it, and maybe it might seem to them out of nowhere that you might be a changed person, or you you have more life in you. And this might, in a way, threaten people or confuse people. It's like a breaking of like social rules or something. But yeah, I feel like there's kind of a connection there to that. And also, he didn't know who Jesus was before he had gone into the church.
It's
So-
the temple.
Yeah, it might be like when we first come to know Christ, it might be kind of hard for us to express who he is. But then when we come into the church, we get to know Christ more, and we can express it better.
Oh, that's a very good, very good. I admire that.
I was going to say that it was also Christ's way of bringing attention to himself as well by performing this on the Sabbath and then having him go to the
Oh,
temple
absolutely,
too. It wasn't kind
absolutely.
of, hello, I'm here type thing.
Yeah, definitely, because he wanted to make clear, because he is this perfect interpreter of the Old Testament, and who he meets at the temple were Pharisees and Sadducees. So Sadducees were priesthood, and Pharisees were pretty much pious leaders of the Jewish people. But they interpreted the law wrongly. And he will use every opportunity to say, you're saying, and he says that many times, you hypocrites, woe to you, you hypocrites and liars, because you say it is wrong to vow or to make a vow on the gold of the temple, but it's nothing if you sort of wrongly mention the altar itself. Do you remember that's from the Gospel of Matthew?
Yeah.
Can you quote that? Anyone can quote
Yeah,
that?
I think it was that. Was it where it was? Don't worry about swearing on the
Swearing on the altar. The Pharisees and Sadducees were saying, don't worry about swearing on the altar, but if you swear of the gold of the altar, you are cursed. And Jesus says, hello, which one is holier, the altar that consecrates the gold or the gold? So Jesus was always using every opportunity to say what hypocrites they are, because he says, you disregarded the more important commandments of the God, because don't forget there is 613 commandments in the Old Testament. So he said, you disregarded the most important commandments and introduced human traditions. and he takes that's why he intentionally pokes their eye by
what I'm saying,
doing
yeah.
this
Yeah.
on a Sabbath
Yes.
to say which was the man is made for Sabbath, not Sabbath for man. He will say that clearly many times, like that's his thing. He doesn't. He's got nothing to do. He's got nothing against honoring Sabbath. But look this. What's important? What's more? He's talking about priorities.
And it's interesting that this guy has been resting his whole life. He's been pretty much just laying down.
Because of his
And then-
inability to do anything else.
Yeah, and then it's on the day of rest that he's made whole and he's able to, he's completed on the Sabbath, where the Sabbath is supposed to be not just a day of rest, but a day of completion. And it's showing like the true purpose of the Sabbath rather than just resting. Or like,
Well, the Sabbath is, by the way, the seventh day. He is the author of the Torah. Torah is the five books of Moses. He is that word of God. And what God says, that happens. What we humans say, our words are sometimes just fly off. But even our words change reality. The word of God changes reality. Let there be light. He's that same one who says, let there be light, and there was light. Let there be, let it be, let it be, let it be. The first pages, everything, whatever he says, that happens. So it's totally normal for him. So he's got the authority when he says, take up your pallet, take up your bed and walk. He gets up and walks. He's commanded to do so by the one who created the heavens and the earth. And so when God is resting on the seventh day, by the way, that's not like, oh, he's tired and
He needs to take a nap.
and he's taking a nap. No, it's not that. It's not that. It is this fulfillment of rest. Okay?
Well, his title is he is the Lord of the Sabbath,
That's right.
and he's acting appropriately, as you said, picking up on the hypocrisy of the Pharisaical teachings, and literally, putting a millstone on any Jewish convert with all those rules that you mentioned.
Slavic word, which is very much better when it says.
I don't think the paralytic knew who Jesus was by the pool.
enthroned.
The day of God.
Yes, he's enthroned. Yes, sort of enthroned and full. Everything is fulfilled. Yeah,
Yeah.
sort of.
But the
He's enjoying like
the Pharisees are just seeing it as like,
the day of, you can't do nothing. Yes, yes,
It's
no work.
one of the most, I think, striking accusations that Christ makes to the Pharisees is that they're whitewashed tombs.
Whitewashed tombs. Yes, yes.
Mm.
And then in this healing on the Sabbath, the paralytic is filled, like you could say, with life. Like his legs now have life. He can move. And where does he go? He goes to the temple. And so I think like in that you have a much better understand. Like that's what what this is actually about. Like it's the Pharisees. It's a meaningless. It's a dead enslavement to the law that's totally devoid of the meaning and of the life that is the whole point of the law. And Christ, even in this miracle, is showing the true reality of the Sabbath. So, yeah, I thought that was another interesting kind of interplay with the Pharisees that's happening throughout the Gospels.
Yep, that is very interesting.
yeah. So then I wrote, so it continues, afterward Jesus finds him in the temple and says to him, behold, you are made whole, sin no more, lest the worst thing come unto you. And then the man departs and tells the Jews that it was Jesus which had made him whole. So he goes into the temple and comes to actually know who Christ is.
Mm.
And it's the same for us in the church when we go into the church. And the more, so he says, sin no more, lest the worst thing come unto you. I feel like that's to do with the fact that the more we know of Christ, the more sort of responsibility we have um, to change our ways. And, you know, like what you say, like once the bell has been rung, you can't unring it. Um, and then, yeah, he goes and tells the Jews that it was Jesus. So we are kind of just, all we're simply called to do is to give glory to Jesus Christ for our healing, in the face of any questioning, that we might be a testament to him.
Yep.
And then I feel like this just, rise, take up thy bed and walk. I feel like that's kind of what I took from the story, just to get up and do it.
Do it. That's it. Christ is risen. He's rising us. Yep, definitely.
Wasn't it a requirement also in those days that when a healing had occurred that they were to present themselves to the priest in the temple with a gift?
Yes.
Yeah. So even though Jesus didn't say it, he did say something like that, like to the
To the 10
blind
lepers.
man.
Yeah, yeah. He did say to the 10 lepers.
Yeah, yeah.
And he also said to the one next Sunday is going to be the Sunday of the blind man. And he sends him to the pool of Siloam. Yeah,
Siloam, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Shilom. I don't know how you pronounce that one.
I was in Israel in September of 2016, and we went to that location because the Jerusalem Council were digging foundations for a building, and anything that is archaeological, all works stop. Well, anyway, since then, the pool of Siloam has been cleaned up, and then they found the path that went up to the temple. So if you ever read in Psalms where the author says, "Let us go up to the temple," the pool of Siloam is also known as a mikvah, which is like a really big public pool. So before they went up to the temple, they would clean themselves and then follow this path. Well, I just happened to be there on that tour where they discovered the beginnings of the pool of Siloam, and since then I've seen YouTube videos of a pathway that's been found, and it goes up to the temple. So it gives meaning to verses, like I said in Psalms, that said, "Let us go up to the temple," and that normally means that they had to clean themselves in a mikveh, like it's at the pool of Siloam. And it's just so cool that there's so much archaeological evidence that proves the Bible. Not that I need to see archaeological evidence, but it's interesting stuff. If any of you are interested in that sort of thing, look up a Dr. Noel Kramer. He lives in Jordan. He's an American biblical archaeologist, and his YouTube channel is called Bible Expedition. Just go to that and see what he's up to in more recent times. He's an interesting guy.
Thank you for sharing that. The
Mm.
whole the whole the whole Jerusalem, isn't it elevated? And so
Yeah.
all tribes go to up to Jerusalem, and there is a um, specific symbolic of mountains and hills in the Bible, and climbing up to reach God.
Also, the temple's built on Mount Moriah. Now, you remember what happened on the top of Mount Moriah with Abraham and Isaac. Golgotha, I don't think was too far from that. So the second Adam was offered as a sacrifice, and that picture of Abraham with Isaac is looking forward to the eventual Lamb of God being crucified. It's a beautiful picture. I'm just amazed at how much the Bible is so interconnected.
Yeah, can I ask question maybe?
Yeah, yeah.
Because last time we sort of asked some questions like, and Gregory started with his presentation, quoting what he sort of found that's really important for him. Arise, take up your bed and walk. Is there something that you would like to share? What does that mean for you personally? Rise up, take up your bed and walk. Would you think about that verse, please, and maybe share something, Nathan?
Putting me on the spot.
Because you're looking at me and that's it. You're just avoiding my me, then I'm.
I mean, for many years, it was coming into the church. That was that moment, kind of that. For those that don't know, I knew about Orthodoxy for about 10 years before I came here, and it was a very slow process of actually coming here to attend my first liturgy. And part of the reason for that was I felt completely paralyzed from going to liturgy, for a lot of silly reasons. A lot of I didn't know any Serbians, or any Greeks or any Russians or any Middle Eastern people. I didn't know. It was totally every Orthodox church that I could go to in the local area. Not knowing anything about it, it felt totally alien, totally foreign in terms of culture, and now I know that's silly, particularly coming here to St. John the Baptist Parish. Everyone's so welcoming, but not knowing any of that, it was something that was very difficult to make that first step to come to the liturgy. But eventually something changed, and I was able to make that first step. And for a significant part of my life, that was the thing that I was moving towards, and that was the next step that I needed to make. And so it did feel like all of a sudden, when I came here, that the paralysis had been lifted and that I could actually do this thing that God had been calling me towards for a long time. And I think that there's another element to how long this man had been paralyzed for. The number is that he was a fully grown man. He was 38, and even after all that time, God hadn't given up on him, and he hadn't given up. He was still going to the pool to be healed, even when after 38 years of dealing with this condition, it'd be very hard to continue. And I think that's kind of have a little bit of understanding of that, only in the sense that even after things feel like they haven't changed, nothing's improving, or you're not moving in the right direction, it can still change. And when God calls you, then even like things that seem like insurmountable barriers can be overcome, because as Father Branco pointed out, he is the one who said, "Let there be light," and there was light. So, yeah, it's kind of a long-winded explanation, but
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Would you like to say something about what does that mean for you? Take up your bed and walk.
Well, it seems to me that we can get paralysed in our own thinking, and we often need some external input. And to me, like as a concrete example, that external input might come from my spiritual father. So we are connected through our spiritual father and then through his bishop and so forth, all the way back to Christ. But without that connection, we're just going to be stuck. We have no compass, I guess you could say, no true north to attach ourselves to. So the man couldn't get up and walk by himself. He needed Jesus to tell him to help him.
Yes, he needed Jesus. He didn't need mediator. He didn't need a spiritual father. That's really important to note.
We don't have Jesus with us in person, though.
Oh, we do. We do. Christ has established the church. He says, upon this rock, which is the faith of Peter, I shall establish my church, and the doors of hell will not prevail against it. So it is important to note that the whole church possesses, the whole church possesses this fullness of truth. Not a single person, not a single bishop, not a single spiritual father, not a single priest. We as the body of Christ, because Apostle Paul will say that the church is the body of Christ, the church possesses the truth. Even if you ask St. Basil the Great, who's one of the greatest fathers, or St. John Chrysostom, or St. Gregory the theologian, none of these particular people, no matter how great they were, had the whole truth. None of them had all figured out. But they had the church to be, and the church had the sacraments, and the greatest of all being the liturgy. And so our teacher is indeed Christ himself directly. It is. Because in the liturgy we have this access, direct access to Christ himself. Take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you for the remission of sins. Likewise, drink of it all. We do need someone who is at least a bit more experienced than us, which we call the spiritual father. But there is this danger of being too attached that you can't, that sometimes, because Christ has come to set us free. We need to know that. He does not, he came to break the chains of any sort of being a slave to any human being. He is opening to us the doors of paradise, and he wants us to be free. That's why one of the reasons why who the first people, I said that many times, who are the first people who are filling the churches? Women and slaves. Why? Because they were treated equally. They wouldn't say, they did not say, oh, you have to obey the order of this world and so on. Someone is raising hand. Victoria. Thank you very much for that. She just wanted to ask something. Yes?
Hi, Father Branko. It's actually Nick.
Nick,
I'm
sorry, I
listening
didn't see
in
the
through
name.
Victoria.
Sorry.
Victoria's here as well,
I'm here.
but I'm listening in. I wanted to answer your question about like taking up your bed and walk. For me, it's there's like meaning coming from the fact that this was a paralyzed man, something that's even now very like final, not necessarily like fatal, but um final in the sense of like not being able to walk again, and probably much more extreme at the time, right, prior to like wheelchairs and accessibility and so on. And the fact that this man is healed and then walks away is sort of to me a symbol of the fact that through faith something impossible or something that we deemed final, like ultimate, as an ultimate challenge prior to believing and opening our heart and mind can be overcome with the, I guess, help, support, power of faith and belief in Christ.
Yeah, something that's considered, not just that's considered, something. This is referred to all of us. That's why we have this sort of, it's called the Sunday of the Paralytic. But if you consider this, oh, this is some event that happened 2,000 years ago, has nothing to do with me because I'm not paralyzed, and this is only referred to paralyzed people. we all have our infirmities. We all have our something that paralyzes, because sin is paralyzing.
Mm-hmm.
Sin is paralyzing, and you know what I'm talking about. Like everyone has this one thing or two or three that's paralyzing him. That's really a no-go.
Yeah, but it's impossible without Christ to kind of go beyond that. I think is maybe what he's saying. Like it's only with Christ that is
Yeah,
possible.
so I wasn't saying that just the physical impairment
Yeah, yeah.
is like
No, no,
something
I
that's
understand.
alienous.
I
But what I
understand.
mean,
You made a very good point about emphasizing the paralysis as a final sort of diagnosis. Like there is, you can't do nothing about it. This is really
yeah,
important to emphasize how dire his situation was.
I
Like,
guess in other words, something that's sort of very, yeah, again, to use that word final, um, before belief is something that can be overcome through faith. And then, yeah, like it doesn't have to be a physical impairment, but there are plenty of
yes and
mental
no,
issues that
because
we see.
how you understand faith is really crucial. Because faith, I'm going to be a parrot here, but faith is usually understood as some sort of a old wives' tales or something like, oh, this is superstition and that's. But faith should be understood whenever you see that's a wrong. It used to mean this in English before. In Serbian, it still means that, but in English today, faith can mean so many things. The right word in English would be faithfulness, because faithfulness actually has this connotation of relationship, like faithfulness in marriage, in a relationship, in any sort of. So,
Like through
faith,
devotion to Christ.
no, faithfulness, being sort of like you're faithful to Victoria, like are you faithful or you're not? That's it. Are you going to betray or are you going to be faithful? That's very simple.
I see.
In a very straightforward way, and that sort of underlies this relationship of trust. Okay, Christ says, "Take up your bed and walk." That's it. You do it, but it means that you have this relationship of trust, that you somehow, on some level, are faithful to Him, even though, as Siva says, love precedes understanding. You don't understand. And this man understood only later who Jesus is. He even went to the temple. They asked him, "Who is he?" He says, "No, a man named who it was. Jesus had." He says, "But the take who?" Because they asked him, "Who is the man who said to you, 'Take up your bed and walk'?" But the one who was healed did not know who it was. He had absolutely no idea who made him well, who healed him. Understanding comes later.
Yep.
I think
I mean, thank you, Nick. Sorry.
a good example of how this is what Scripture means by faithful, by faith, and how in the English it says faith, and we have this modern understanding of it, but how it actually aligns with what you're saying about it meaning faithfulness is Abraham.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's not that Abraham, God revealed to him he'll be the father of many nations and all of this, and he just had this mental acceptance. Oh yeah, I'll go with that. He was faithful to God, and he obeyed him, no matter what he asked him, to the point of even being prepared to sacrifice his son. Um, that faithfulness was because he was a friend to God. He had a personal relationship with God. This faithfulness comes from the love of God, not just you know the way that faith is kind of talked about now is like a belief devoid of reason, rationality, kind of like a logical jump.
No, without love.
Yeah, that it's just a purely kind of notional thing, but it's relational. I think you see that throughout the Old Testament, and particularly in the New. And was last week, last liturgy was the myrrh-bearing woman. They're such an amazing example of that. So yeah.
It's interesting to say when we talk about faithfulness, there is no positive proof for any of the, like, especially for Abraham. Like, in you all the nations will be blessed. He had absolutely no idea what that means. Okay? And it did not fulfill after the coming of Christ, like thousands of years after that. So, and that's it. First, what Siva said, what you, Nathan, said, it is that love precedes understanding. You respond with your heart, and you have this relationship. As this man, he had this. He said yes to God, and that's the most important thing. To say yes to God. Do you want to be made well? Yes. And then comes all the babbling about what the water stirs and I can't make it, and he's complaining and whinging about this and so on. Jesus doesn't want to talk about that at all.
There's something that I was thinking about that I forgot to kind of talk about, but before he knows he has Christ, he's looking to other people. He's looking to other people to help him in his healing. Like, he needs somebody to put him into the pool. And I think maybe this has something to do with the last question. But I think before I knew who Christ was, it's like in knowing your own sin, you kind of want to be. You look to other people for justification, but then once you know Christ, once you hear from Christ, then you look to Him, and only then are you able to kind of get up, because nobody else can nobody else can say that your sins are forgiven, or that, like, only Christ can do that. And I think that's kind of does that make sense?
It does make sense. I want to emphasize one thing that actually the liturgical tradition of the church emphasizes, that very moment. Many times, if you come to Saturday Vespers, or you just open the liturgical books for Saturday Vespers of the Sunday of the Paralytic, you'll find in many stihiras exactly this. Sir, I have no human, no man. Gospodin, nemam čovjeka. Lord, I have no man, no human. Man here is translated as if just it's a male, but it's actually human being. The human being is, he relies, yes, on the human being, but the truth is, in the liturgical tradition, this part is sort of mentioned. There is no man, there is no human. And you remember how we have so many sayings and proverbs say, be a man, like, man up, or some woman up, or something, or things like that. It means, be totally human being, which then fulfills only in Christ. Christ is this fully
Perfect.
human and fully divine. And in Him, all of it is now fulfilled. What do you mean? I have take up your pallet, take up your bed and walk. Do you want to share?
So with the what I was going to add before was the fact that I focus a bit more on the taking up the bed, which I think is very significant.
Yeah.
He doesn't ask you to leave the bed, because everyone has a bed.
Excellent. Everyone has something
Everyone has
that
a
drags him down.
Yeah, but then, as Greg was saying, bring it all to Christ. Christ is he's selfish in a way. He wants to be the master of everything, but he transfigures it. And he transfigures that bed, and it becomes this symbol, like he transfigured the cross, where it's something disgusting, it becomes a symbol of victory. So that bed now is not just a symbol of his infirmity; it's a symbol of the fact that he's no longer infirm, and it's transfigured. And whatever darkness we have, whatever struggle or trial we have in life, it's given to us for the sake of.
Carry that with you.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We don't leave it behind.
Live with it. You can't get rid of it. Learn how to carry that. Just learn how to carry that bed that you have.
It could I also think it could be that bed has been his home.
That's right.
And now you have
He's got nowhere to sleep.
you have a new home. So take your bed, take your home, take it with you, because your life is your life is moving, your life is changing, your life has changed course, changed direction.
Yeah, true. Anyone else would like to share? Because I'm not gonna ask everyone now, because it is 10 past 9.
Look, Hebrews 11:6 says that it's impossible to please God without faith, and rewards will follow. So this scene is not the same as the woman with the issue of blood, who knew, her faith knew that if she would just touch the hem of Jesus's gown. And here's the strange thing: he felt power go out of him, and in that mix of people that were around him, he turned around and said, "Well, who just touched me?" And he said, what did his disciples say? "You got to be kidding me, God! We've got all these people around." They say, "What do you mean, who's touched you?" So in this scene, here is this man on a pallet, like you say, Father, and Jesus just approaches and says, "Do you want to be made well?" So at that point in time, he didn't know who this man that was talking to him was. So it wasn't until he went up to the temple to give thanks to God that God had presented himself, and this man knew Jesus to be who he was. And I think that's when his faith would have been of benefit to him, as Greg has found faith in God because he believes that Jesus exists, God exists. And there's every benefit to be in worship on a regular basis. Anyway, that's the end.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to share something? All right. Thank you, everyone, for being with us tonight. I thank you, Gregory, and
thank you, Greg,
Siva, whom I asked to participate, and especially, thank you all, and see you then on Sunday if you're coming here. If not, then see you next Tuesday. Next Tuesday, Professor Oleg Soldat will be leading us into the topic that we have previously mentioned. Which I can't now remember. But you have a poster there, and we'll share that one. And it's going to be a very interesting one. So invite your friends and whoever to talk about what I remember now, what we see or what we look at shapes us. He's going to talk about AI, especially. That's his sort of specialty. He teaches at the Faculty of Philosophy. He finished in Belgrade and did his PhD, I think in Budapest. And he teaches in Banja Luka, where I'm from, which is the Serbian part of Bosnia. Very much looking forward actually hearing him, because he's a very interesting person. We were flatmates and roommates for years in Belgrade, and had so many arguments. Regardless of that, but yeah, I love him dearly, and he's going to be very, very interesting. Okay.
All right,
like a walking encyclopedia, I have to say that. And loves rum.
And loves rum, did you say?
Okay, thank you very much, and see you
Do
then.
good night. Yeah, good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.